We are slightly late, folks. We do apologise, but the good news is it is an improvement from Monday night. It's not the 5 goal thrashing we took at Oriel Park. We've gone up to Pats tonight, apprehensive, but I think we're going to bring in the main man, producer Chris, who is live at the game. Chris, it's a defeat, but I mean, look, although we haven't created much or created any chance, and nothing we're going to create them, it's an improvement from Monday night. Is probably the best way of putting it, is it?
Yeah, I think so. I think like the 5 changes that Stephen made tonight, like you could say they probably all done enough to be considered for the next game.
Yeah.
Like if you go through them, I think Monroe was very unlucky with the goal. Obviously, initially first saves it, and then it just rolls back to Keating again, and he slips it underneath him. He had another good save before that. I think, like we discussed it last week, with his quickness off the line and kind of where he plays in and around the 18-yard box, that probably suited us a lot better tonight. He was far more sweeping and cleaning up what needed to be done in that hole that we kind of were picked asunder from the previous week. So in that or on Monday. So in that sense, yeah, it's an improvement there. I think Ansley was reasonable as well in the centre with Boiler. Muller okay, but still on the left, it just isn't his strongest position. Would you say he got caught out for the goal? I don't know. It's very harsh maybe on him.
Yeah.
But he looked more assured than Walker probably looked in the previous game. So in that sense, it was all right. And I thought, Gullen back up front again was good. His hold-up play is quite good. You just like to see us probably create a little bit more for him. I think.
Yeah. that seemed to be a story of tonight with a lot of no post-match, obviously, a lot of Twitter, a lot of comments, online tonight. We seem to lack a little bit of kind of urgency going forward. We seem to lack a wee bit. Although Gullen, we know how to play him. It worked kind of well himself, Hogg and Benson at Tala that night. I don't want to keep flashing back to the first game of the season, but we seem to lack a little bit of creativity. And the frustrating is we have the players. We just tonight we just didn't seem to utilise them, even though we started the game pretty evenly with Pats. Like Sean has said there, we probably played. We didn't play that bad tonight, but we're still a mile off what we're looking for, and we seem to just lack a little bit of cutting edge going forward. Although we can talk about the goal and the long punt over the top, but even Keith Tracy had alluded to all the talent on the field, but it seemed to be a bit of long ball football, and we just seemed to couldn't find that gear that we needed to break down that centre half of Redmond and Pats, is it?
Yeah, look, and I think if we talk about the goal, like it's a long punt. It's a kick out gone down the pitch, and the defender just throws his leg at it just to clear the ball. Suddenly it's a ball over the top. It's a foot race with Muller and one of the players, and then I think Ansley kind of you just kind of notices Keaton over his shoulder, and at that stage Keaton maybe has half a yard on him, so he gets to the ball first. I think like that's what Stephen was saying in his post match there tonight. He's just like, it was of a nothing thing that we lost the game to tonight, so it's real fine margins. And we're not getting that bit of luck. But he said when we have the ball, we're just not doing enough with it. And I think he's right. Like for all the huff and puff, like I think it was like 53-47 or something in possession tonight. I think they had 6 attempts on target. We had 4. I think they had about 12 shots. We had 8. So there's not a whole lot in it. But you're just missing that little bit of, like the Chris Forrester that they had, who's looking to kind of unlock something every single time. We just did not have that tonight. I thought, in particular in the first half, I was quite frustrated because I thought we were in good positions. Darrell Horgan sitting on the edge of the box, and Gullen wanted to kind of turn on the edge of the box. And then every time when I thought, just drop your shoulder and have a pop, we pass the ball back outside the box again, or we're trying to lay it off to somebody and it's getting crowded in the middle. I just thought, it's one pass too many. We just need maybe someone to be a little braver at times.
Yeah.
And have a crack at the ball and just see where we go on it. I will say I thought McGuckin had a bit of energy about him. I'm not too sure it was always in the right areas. Like he he'd busy you if you're a defender, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because he pops up everywhere without being anywhere. I think the longer he gets more first team action, you'd like to see him maybe bend his runs in front of a defender. He's kind of trying to drift in behind at times, and that way we're kind of chipping a ball into him. I'd like to see him be able to time runs in front of defenders, drag a foul, maybe drag a penalty out of someone, or take that touch and get into the box and have a shot. But I'm sure, you know, those sort of things come with the more appearances he gets in the league, and that he'll be more used to the runs and what way the team plays. But I did think he was a busy player, and you could see there's something about him. But once again, we just need to be smarter when we're trying to break people down and have more of a cutting edge then.
Yeah, and just when you mentioned like McGuckin and Gullen, McGuckin in particular, just on a contrast to that, Rory, something I kind of not picked up on, something I mentioned as well, just in the chat I was having with someone during the game. You know, we talk about, you know, the Ryan O'Kane not on the starting lineup today, the Hogan starting, and it's a couple of games there. He just seems to be, I don't know whether miles off it is harsh, but he seems to be a little bit. I don't know if it's off the pace as a group or it's just a little bit sluggish, but there seems to be balls being fed to him that he's just not. I know we go back to the old Darryl Hogan, but he just seems to be that little bit of half a step too. Either it's too quick for him, or he's just a little bit too slow for those particular passes in, and it kind of creates a little. It kind of looks like he's not affected the game, I suppose. But I don't know whether that's harsh. But Rory's picked up on it as well. I thought I was being harsh saying I don't look. I'm only going on what comments, but. You know, is it worrying that we have a player like that that's just not being maybe utilised? You know, has he still got that kind of pace to play an out-and-out wing role? And are we missing something there? Maybe missing a trick? Like, you know, somebody had mentioned online when Austin Brook came on, we see a little bit more settled. You know, maybe with Ryan O'Kane running down the wing. Go on.
Yeah, and I thought the same with Scott High when he came on. I thought and Mahan wanted the ball. He was suddenly coming in on the touchline and, you know, trying to stretch the play slightly. I think we probably have an over-reliance on Darryl Horgan sometimes. And it's probably because a lot of new lads in the squad, I'm not too sure, but it's like give the ball to Darryl and see what we can do. But you think about the chances we had, you know, the challenge on Gullen in the box in the second half. I'm wondering, he takes a touch, and then he's kind of trying to wait for the ball maybe to open onto his right foot. Could he have poked that with his left and not allow the defender to get in before it? You know, you had Sam Durant's one that was bending and Robbie Benson's header. Like, he easily could have got a draw there tonight. I feel they're not a million times better than us.
No, and I think somebody alluded to that.
They took it.
Exactly, and that seems to be, and that's what could hurt us now in the next couple of games. We seem to be the kind of they're not even half chance, they're probably quarter chances that we're getting, but where other teams are using those and it's John's right. We're all grasping straws here at the minute, John. And what we're saying, like, we seem to have an issue with getting just that final third. Like, I mean, if you think of even Pat's chances tonight, there were a couple of chances. They probably could have been a penalty. I can't remember what incident it was, but the referee had a really, we don't know the role of referees this early in the season, but there seemed to be really a lot of shouts. And Keith Tracy was kind of trying to be impartial as he could on the yellow white columns with Adrian, but you know, there was one or two moments where Pats could have easily been 2-0 up, and we didn't even stem from that. There seemed to be nothing. The last kind of 5 or 6 minutes of the match, we seem to get a little bit about us, but I mean, you're way too late in the game then. You know, I don't think we just utilised going forward enough. Yeah. Like, we've mentioned Scott High, we've mentioned Gullen, McGuckin did all right. I thought Austin Brink came on and settled it down. And the jury's still out for me on Bradshaw and playing in the middle of the park. Now, whether or not he's a better centre-back than what we have, I don't know. But yeah, Stevie will have to find it out the hard way over the next couple of weeks. But there seems to be a little bit of... There's definitely room for moving players around there. We seemed a little bit disjointed in parts. There's definitely a bit of improvement needed in the middle of the park. There's still some players to come in. But, like, even you just said, Pats weren't that great. And we were still... I think it would be the comment earlier on as well. I think it was Sean Newbury. You know, we were still off the pace from that, and that's worrying now. You know, these couple of games in the season, we should have had 4 games in a week and a half, but we've only had the 3. But is that something we need to kind of really nail down quick before our next set of games coming up? Because we do have some big fixtures coming up now over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think even the next fixture against Waterford is massive now. Like every game's going to keep being massive till we finally get a win. You know, like we said last week, with no relatively easy fixture, it's tough when you keep looking at going. You know, you need this win, and I see, you know, Sean Newbury's comment there. It's the 1 goal in 4 games. He's right. That is a problem, and that also stems then to kind of, I think what you're saying, Gally, is I'm not too sure that enough of the players have really stuck their hand up to Stephen and said, that's my position and I want to play there. Because what we keep seeing then is other players coming in and they look like they're being better than the person maybe who started in that position. Yeah. So then Stephen's left with the conundrum of who do you start with? You know, and we can't keep going every game with 5 changes either. We have to have some sort of a settled squad here. But I'm not too sure Stephen is 100% certain what his desiring starting 11 would be.
Yeah, and I think if it's and there is that issue. I bring it back to the likes of Bradshaw again, but I know, like, even John had said it tonight. We were talking about the goal. Flano had mentioned it there. You know, Muller ball watching. I mean, this is Muller's second season ball watching. It's a ball over the top. Keith Tracy alluded to it very early on that he kept saying, for all the talent on the pitch, you know, like Levy and them, it was a long ball over the top, and it nearly caught us out a couple of minutes before that as well. And it's so simple, but the luck that we're having over the last couple of weeks, you know, they've had 2 chances to score. They've taken the second one. Nobody's followed the ball in. Anna Masahoon didn't follow the ball either across last week either in Oriel Park. Is it just are we? Is it a maybe? Look, and you read on Twitter last week, they kept in the dressing room for a couple of hours after the game. Does that do anything for confidence? Are they going out tonight now on a tight pitch in Inchicore against a team that probably should be, you know, definitely higher up the league than they are? But look, at everybody's where they are on merit at the minute. You know, we've gone out tonight, albeit you know, Pats haven't been great either, and we've just been low in confidence. And you know, is it something that they need to look at again and say, right, should I keep them in the dressing room for all this? You know, is it better off saying, look, I don't want to speak to you after the game. Let's just see you in a couple of days. We don't know whether that dressing down has kind of spilled over into the night. Although it's a better game, I suppose. We're kind of covering it up that it's not really a better game, it's just a better result. Even though it's 3 points dropped.
There's 1 or 2 things there. Like, I seen Pats putting in 1 or 2 challenges tonight, and once they were kind of jeering each other up and kind of, you know, pushing on each other, where I feel like at times we're a little keeping in our shell. It's like people just don't want to be the one to make that mistake. Yeah. And I feel that's just for the fact that we're not scoring enough goals. We haven't won yet this year. Like, you know, wins breeds confidence, goals breeds confidence for strikers and for a team. I think when you're short on everything like that, I think it's just at the moment, we've seen it before with Dundalk teams which lacked a bit of confidence. People tend to shy away from the ball a little and be like, well, I don't want to be the one to make the mistake. Play a safe ball rather than is there more incisive ball I could play? Yeah. And so we get into good positions, and then what do? We play the ball back. Why? Because it's safer. But sometimes you got to be daring and you got to go for it. Yeah, and I just feel we're in that zone at the moment. But look, I've also seen, had a quick look at the results there tonight. I think Waterford took a 3-0 hammering tonight. Am I right? Yeah. I think Shell's two goals as well. Two goals to at the Element as well. Yeah. We've gotten away with it, Chris, is probably best. Are we getting away with it maybe this early into the season? We're getting away with it. Well, we're going to bring in a man that's been very busy tonight. It's probably a long overdue debut on the Townend podcast. Dundalk FM's latest commentary master, headmaster, I suppose, Dan Pope, and obviously Cassidy Bell's coach as well. Dan, how are we this evening?
Well, lads, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Well done on the commentary. Yourself and all were excellent.
Thank you.
From watching the game tonight, obviously you're as fresh as anybody after commentating on and doing and covering it for everybody listening. Are we, considering the game started okay, you know, both teams seem to be really going for it. I don't mean it wasn't gung ho, but it was, you know, they seemed to really wanted to win. But then we were talking about Chris there, we just don't seem to have anything going forward. And maybe, look, we put it to you, like, even watching the game tonight and commentating on it, does it look like we're just lacking a little bit going forward? And again, we're back to these mistakes at the back. You know, John Flanagan mentioned, it's a ball over the top. It's very simple to mark. Well, in theory it is, but is it something we're just lacking a little bit of cutting edge going forward that kind of ends up where we are tonight?
Yeah, I think it's a strange one to analyse because everyone's been so deflated after the last couple of games, particularly home games and Monday night in particular. The performance felt to me much more similar to the one in Tallaght. It was a poor goal to concede. It was soft. It was from a nothing ball from Forrester, just like hooked over the top. We seemed to be too far forward, got caught under it. But other than that, I thought our defensive shape was certainly far better than it has been for the last couple of games. Seemed more akin to it was on the opening night. And so I guess it's at least a step in the right direction as far as that goes. But yeah, at the other end of the pitch, the fact that we were in the game and competitive, and it felt like, because it was only a goal in it, it felt like there might be something around the corner, but it was never really. We didn't fashion any real clear chances. McGuckin had one early on, didn't he? Durant's left-footed curler towards the end was probably the closest that we came. I had one whistle past the post. It's it's the toughest part of the game always, and it seems that we've got a bit of work to do in that area to find ourselves, getting away from the dreaded bottom spot where we find ourselves at the moment. I don't want to hark back to former seasons or former players, but I think anything sums up where we are at the moment. When Pat scores a hat-trick up the road and they're putting a better performance, we're still struggling for goals. It's like, right, this is where we're at. It's going to be tough to turn the ship around, but I don't know. I felt there was enough in the second half, although we didn't feel. I don't think we can come away saying that we were unlucky to not get anything from the game, but it felt that there's green shoots there at least. I felt that some of the substitutions affected the game today. It felt like we were at least pushing for an equaliser. I didn't feel that we weren't really banging the door down, but move into next week with a bit of confidence, at least with the team that played tonight. Still, lots of people, a couple of people making their, Uston making his first start tonight. A couple of lads still only made appearances off the bench. These relationships, partnerships all over the pitch are still going to take time to bed in. And I think, well, I know patience isn't always a big commodity in football supporters, but I think we need a little bit of it.
Yeah, I think
I haven't heard everything since tonight. How did you see it?
Yeah, it was hard. Like, even going into tonight, there was a bit of I wouldn't say confidence, but I mean, I kind of had we kind of spoke with it on Monday night as well, Chris, that nothing could be as bad as Monday night. Now we've said that before, and look, we've had really shocking games, but any kind of improvement is an improvement. Obviously you don't want the result, but I don't know what else. I think the best anybody probably could have wanted tonight is probably a draw, and I think we probably could have earned a draw, a little bit of more finesse in and around the box, a couple of one or two extra passes, we might have got something. But at the same time, I felt Pats could have been 2 or 3 up. They probably could have had, I can't remember the incident, but it looked like a Stonewall penalty. Now, I could be correct on that. I haven't seen the replays, but the refs seem to be very poor. Seem to be not blowing for a lot of stuff. But like a 1-0 defeat in the context of things compared to last Monday night, it's not ideal, but it's not the worst result. Now, I say that we're only half a dozen games into the league or less, but it's hard to know, and I keep coming back to it, and it seems to be very prevalent in our comments and on Twitter and social media that we've one goal in, I don't know how many minutes we've played. We've conceded, I think, 9 or 10, 9. And that's a worrying stat, considering, like you said, that certain person up in Derry has hit a hat-trick tonight. It doesn't bode well. I think people say it's the worst piece of business that's done in League of Ireland history. It's definitely up there. Look at whatever's going on behind the scenes. We don't need to keep rolling over it all the time. But, the worrying thing is that we seem to be creating a bit of the ball in midfield, but we don't seem to have that killer pass at the end. And somebody going on to, whether it be a McGuckin, whether it be Cammy Elliott, Darryl Hogan, like the level is there, the ability is there, but we just don't seem to gel enough going forward that we look like we're going to maybe grab more than 1 or 2 goals in the game of football. And that's probably worrying. You can forgive 1 or 2 issues at the back, but if you can't score on your own end as well, or even create enough to work goalkeepers. Like that's going to be a worrying trend, I think, to want to get over the next couple of weeks, because teams will be aware of that very, very quickly. And that's something that's going to worry me more. Because I think in League of Ireland, the level of player is very good. Most teams will concede most games. That's just the way League of Ireland is. But going forward, I'm very worried for the fact that we can't put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, well, there's no goals at all from open play yet in 4 league games.
Yeah,
it's frightening. Free kick is the only goal we have so far, and I thought our midfield play, Scott High, I've been quite impressed with him from all of his performances so far.
Yeah.
I think he's a good player. Robbie Benson, in particular, after the changes tonight, felt like he was, we were driving well from midfield, had quite a bit of incision getting up towards the final third, and then it was just the final ball, or being able to find the right angle for a cross, or good little 1-2s, quite quick exchanges of passes to create space and get on the front foot. And it felt like we got into positions where there was a chance potentially around the corner, but then just that final ball often, or if it was a shot, it was somewhat speculative from outside the box and just didn't quite hit the target. I mean, again, I think I'd still hope that there's enough there for that to come right with time, the longer these guys get to play with each other. I think Sam Durant helped affect the game again when he came off the bench tonight. I know a lot of people have been suggesting he should be he should be in the starting team, and I don't think he did himself any harm tonight with another decent performance off the bench. So, we hope that next time we turn it around, but one goal in 4 games, and it being from a free kick is not a great look.
Yeah, Chris, just to make sure you're there, Chris, before you ask your question, you can't answer me. You're in 50. Just from the game itself, I think from the atmosphere, kind of, without going into I don't know, post match and stuff, or anything that was said, but from the atmosphere itself in Dundalk, on the night, was it something did you get an air of that they thought they might get something from the game, or was it just like I think Dan actually Orla had said there was like a bus or something, nearly a full bus, and it was pretty much, I think, 30 or 40 people who cancelled it up. There was a real surprise. But was it the atmosphere kind of allowed the players to kind of even get stuck into the game, or was there that nervous air from Monday night?
There was definitely a nervous air. I think the fans were quiet enough at the very start of the match, but the more we kind of hung in, I think they definitely started backing the team like you would expect, and then that kind of growed. But I don't think, even for the atmosphere in Richmond Park tonight, like you've mentioned already, I don't think the referee really helped anything.
No.
In really challenges, I was kind of watching through gritted teeth, saying, another referee could send someone off here. It may not have even been a booking, but if you push someone over, that was a yellow. So the real harsh ones you got away with, and the simple fouls, he was brandishing yellow cards for it. I was like, what is going on here? And the unfortunate thing was, so when when Pats got the goal, the first goal ruled out for the push on Monroe, they weren't happy with that at all. Then it was the offside soon after that, so the ball in the net twice. It wasn't like, they were getting quite frustrated, and that was just when Stephen made the substitutes. If that was Oriel Park, you'd get that kind of roar would kind of really kick us on. And the fact that you were away tonight and you were attacking away from our fans in the second half probably made that a harder task. But I felt that in general, with both sets of fans, I don't think the referee allowed a real flow of a match to ignite the fans really into the contest.
Dan, just on it's something I actually saw it on. Sorry, Chris. Yeah, go. Sorry.
No, I was going to just say, just on Dan's point as well, just about taking the chances and stuff like that. Like, he's right. On one side, I'm seeing at least we're creating the chances. They always say it's worse if you're like we talk about 2-3 chances, real good chances that we probably should have got something on tonight.
Yeah.
We're not, like, I'd be more worried a bit like the last match and even the Galway match before that, we didn't really create a whole lot. Like, we had probably 2-3 really good chances to score tonight, and should have. So at least we're creating. But like Dan just said there, the fact that we only have one goal and that's from open play, that's probably a tough thing for Stephen to take tonight, for everything that they're working on. You think that's really what we've got to do. We can't be relying on set pieces to be something that we can score from. We gotta have enough in our play that we can open up and unlock teams from open play.
Yeah, I think
we've
that's
probably not seen that killer edge at the end of that.
Chris, yes, I actually put this to Dan. Dan, just from watching, up at Oriel Park, even watched tonight, Robbie Benson seems to be playing a little bit more forward role. Like, Chris, it is something we had last year as well, or 18 months ago. It seems to be, it's almost like an Alfie Lewis type of thing, where Scott High seems to come deep looking for the ball. But could we be better off maybe moving him a little bit more forward? I know we've got Bradshaw. For me, I just don't know whether Bradshaw is a CDM or a centre-back. He just seems to be one of those players. We've one or two more to come into the role. Obviously got Paul Doyle. Benson can play as a CDM if needed as well. He is better moving forward, but are we too heavily reliant on someone like Robbie Benson to kind of cut through the last third of the field? Could Scott High be someone? Could it be Darrell Hogan? Ryan O'Kane's been on the bench tonight. Like, I'm not saying, the decision to start these players was wrong, but as the game went on, we just didn't, I keep coming back to that middle of the last third of the park where we just couldn't seem to find that cutting edge. And I wonder, is it worth kind of looking at maybe a Scott High, like Alfie Lewis was, and never really got to run it, playing a little bit further up the field just to see what we're like. Because, it works for so long. It worked really well in the Rovers game because we pressed them really high. Hogan, Benson and Gullen got at them really early. We didn't even, if you look at the first half, we probably didn't even play with a striker. It was kind of we had a forward four almost with Ryan O'Kane as well. And it just seems to be, at the stage we're at now, or rock bottom of the league, is it something maybe where you could throw caution to the wind and maybe say, look, there's no easy games coming up. Waterford drawn, they're all coming up in the next couple of weeks. Is it something you could just say, maybe let's rotate it, maybe try something like, whether it be a Bradshaw and a Doyle in middle of the park with, Scott High in his own up a little bit higher. Is it something that could be looked at?
Yeah, possibly. Although I think tonight in the second half, it felt, I don't know if it was a result of the changes that were made, but Benson seemed to, his influence in the game was more, he was more effective in the second half, it felt.
Yeah.
We were on the front foot more. You did right though about the trying to get, I've been impressed with what I've seen in Scott High, but if he can be involved further up the field, he obviously can play there. I think when the Sligo game, he started on the right hand side of the front three, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, Stevie thinks he can play in a more advanced position. It felt, I think it was the Galway game at home. It felt that both our sort of sitting central midfielders, I think it was High and Bradshaw that night, were both, it was just, the ball was played out to them from one of the two centre backs and then it was just played straight back. They weren't on the half turn. It was just felt like the build-up play seemed very slow and pedestrian that evening, and it felt like we weren't able to get advanced up the field at all. Tonight, I felt, certainly in the second half, it felt like we were able to do that a bit better. And that's what I feel about it. It feels like there's a little bit to build on there at least tonight, certainly compared to the last two games. I know it's something to be comparing it to a 5-0 defeat at home. It's like one of the the worst days, but it's we're looking for anything here. It feels like I felt that there was, at least we got on the front foot. We managed to, if in transition, we played the ball quicker through midfield. It wasn't just pedestrian, ball into the midfield, back to the centre backs, play it out to the full backs, back into midfield. There was still quite a bit of that. The centre backs did have a lot of possession tonight, but I felt that we played through the thirds a bit more effectively than we have done, and certainly in transition we got on the front foot a bit quicker than we have. And on occasion Scott High was involved in quite a bit of that. Benson too as well, I felt. So yeah, whether or not, still getting to know all of these players, a lot of them, I've only seen them on a few occasions. And so yeah, when Bradshaw was signed, as you said, he wasn't sure if he's a centre back or a CDM, still not sure. He's done okay, but yeah, maybe if there was license to play High slightly further up the pitch. I don't know. It's it's a tricky one when you haven't scored any goals in open play.
That is it, yeah, exactly. I think that seems to be the elephant in the room when it comes to this team at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Stevie talked about identity after the Sligo game. I think he said you couldn't tell what we were about. In the past, it felt like his teams, when we're successful, it's what you talked about earlier, that pressing, is winning the ball high up in their third of the pitch, it's being on the front foot and then going from there. And that's felt to me like the sort of identity that this team was successful with in Stevie's first season. And at times tonight, we did that quite well. It was, just a few patches, but we ended up once or twice pressing them in their half and winning the ball back. And I think if we can build on that and start to do that more, rather than having to just be reliant on playing the ball out from our own defensive third and look to play through the middle. So I'm not quite sure we're there yet with the guys playing in central midfield. I don't know. It's there's no easy outs, and as we said in the commentary earlier, there's no UCD this year. There's no Finn Harps in previous years where you'd say, well, there's going to be an easy game around the corner at some point. We'd fancy 3 points tonight. It's like every game's going to be a tough one this year, and we need to start finding answers to that. Creating chances question pretty soon.
Chris, Chris, before we bring you back, and I should mention, folks, believe it or not, we are giving away a pizza tonight. So if anybody has a man of the match, if you want to comment on any man of the match, folks, we will get back. We didn't give away one on Monday night because Tony wouldn't make poor Vinny DeLuca make us a pizza for last Monday night. But if anybody has a man of the match, we will debate it and over the next couple of minutes and throw your names there. Chris, do you know what the real frightening thing is? It was only John Flanagan. I couldn't think of Dara Keane, poor Dara Keane's name, but I was naming out the centre midfielders now. But when you look at even Corey Bolton is mentioned there, Durant, O'Kane. I think somebody had mentioned there, Austin Brook, Durant, Mahan. They're almost players that had slipped our mind over the last, because we've a lot of talent there, a lot of attacking talent there. Like I assume when we done if anybody does the League of Ireland fantasy team, I've done a team at the start of the season, I haven't looked at it since, but I had Mahan in my starting 11 for the Dundalk, and he hasn't really kind of set the world alight, but the talent is there. He's almost like a Durant from last season. You can see it in him. It's just whether or not Stephen can get it out of him. And it's going to be another question mark for Stephen and the coaches. Can they get attacking football? Can they get the right attacking football out of what they've signed? Yes, people might say, they've pulled players in from almost anywhere, but they've got someone who has League of Ireland experience. Robbie Mahan looks like an electric player when he gets going. It's just whether or not we can get them in. And there's, John Flanagan said the other centre-half, that'd be Johnson, I think. There's players we can't even remember that we have at the club, and that's kind of the League of Ireland merry-go-round, is it? But, Stephen's job now is to galvanise these players and see if we can get something going forward. I know, you want to keep the ball out of your net, but, like Dan had said, we've had one goal this season not even from open play, and that's what's worrying me more. I mean, I think you can get the crux of it right at the back. I think that will come together, but at the minute we're just not creating it and going forward. And I'm just very conscious of the fact that we've Waterford coming up. We've a refixtured Bowes match as well. You've got your Leinster Senior Cup obviously, and then you've got I think is it Shelbourne and then Drogheda, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the exact way they're going, but it's some tough. And as Dan says, there's no Finn Harps with the utmost of respect for teams. There's no Finn Harps. There's no UCD. We are now at the minute we're taking their spot, and we're the kicking team for everybody. And they really need to get a hold of what they're doing and find some way of playing these players in the one group, I suppose, in the one team. And that's going to be a real problem for Stevie and the lads for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think Keane and Mahan are probably very unlucky that they picked up injuries in pre-season, and next thing you know, new players come in front of you, and it's very hard to for them to into the team. I think if you look at the changes that Stephen's, like I said earlier, I'm not too sure he knows his starting 11, and I don't think enough of the players maybe are doing enough to stake their claim for the starting 11. You need to really, really see someone put a stranglehold on their position and say, "This is mine. I'm I'm going to lock it down. And it's like I said, I'd say I'm just coming past Castlebellingham, lad, so I've no idea if the old coverage is old here. Like with Sam Durant coming on was probably the shining light there tonight. He was unlucky with a current effort. He wanted to take people on. You know, I'd say for me with man of the match, just in case I drop out, it's probably a toss up between Robbie Benson or maybe Sam Durant, and I'd probably give it to Sam Durant just for being on the front foot maybe a little bit more tonight. Robbie Benson should have scored that header. There was no one right. He should have got that header. But I just thought Sam Durant just had enough. I would say he probably has to start.
I think that's the one thing Durant certainly, as much as anybody, I felt calls for him after the last 3 games had been as strong as anybody's, and so I was quite surprised that he wasn't one of the changes tonight. And then when I read 5 changes, it's like, okay, Durant must be in, but he still wasn't. So I don't think he could have done much more tonight. He looked lively, he was busy, he moved the ball quickly. Well, maybe he could have done more if his shot had curled an extra 6 inches and the inside of the post and gone in. He'd have been a clear man of the match at that stage, I think, if he popped with a goal. But yeah, he was influential, and he'll be, not literally, but figuratively, knocking on Stevie's door saying, right, what else do I need to do to get a go in the team? I know we changed formation at the end and we put off centre-back and put on an extra attacking player, and so it won't be the same team that finished the game, but it might look a bit more like that because, it's a sign of progression. It was more, the team that started today was more like the one that finished the Sligo game than the one that started it. Maybe that will happen again on Friday, a week today. I just hope we don't have another gale / rain coming in sideways. We need to get Oriel becoming a tough place to come and play football again. That's the worst game of football I've seen there in my 10 years of living in the town. And I know people have been watching Dundalk for longer than I have who've said the same thing. And so we've got to put that to bed, get a home win under the belt, get the shed making some noise again, get a bit of positivity back around the place. It's still early in the season. We don't have many points, but had we won tonight, Pats would have been bottom and we'd have been out of the bottom 2. So, it's still so early days. There's no need to panic just yet, I don't think.
I think that's what we said last week. We were in serious danger here on Monday night and we probably did, in fact, we were in danger. We got, it's not that we got caught up in it. We were kind of aware that it's very early, but I think Monday night's game, and Chris, I remember Monday night, it was I keep saying it to people, I was talking, actually someone,
it was nearly point 2.0, wasn't it?
It really was. And it was the first night, I kept saying, it was the first night we ever had comments. So when we launch our show, there's music at the start and there's a bit of a build-up before we actually go live. It was the first night I'd ever seen comments flood in before the show had started. And we knew that it was going to be an absolute hectic night. And I didn't know it was just if this was maybe another 10, 12 games into the season, I definitely think I don't even know if we'd go on air. I don't even know if we'd be able to go on live. But, I think we're given kind of everything the benefit of it because it's so early in the season. Like you say, Dan, the panic button, there's definitely one being made, and it says it's been written underneath that it's a panic button, but I don't think it's going to be pressed just yet. I know there is a lot of call, and you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And we don't want to be putting stuff out there and saying stuff and blah blah blah. But there's definitely going to be something. Tonight's defeat, albeit a closer one, 1-0, and we've had some chances. Pat's probably just edged it. We probably could have got something out of it. I said it last week. If by the 1st of April, the Loud Derby, and we're still where we are, and we haven't really improved much, I really feel for what's going to happen coming down the line. But like you say, it is early doors. It is. We have to be kind of. You might have to take over from Steph as the optimistic king here, Dan, because me and Chris have been guilty of not being too optimistic over the last couple of months. But it's
tried to be glass half. So I've always tried to be a glass half full spectator. You've got to bear in mind, I arrived about a week before the end of Stephen Kenny's first season, and so I was spoiled for my first.
Definitely, yeah. You're like the children, El. Yeah.
First 5 years, a Dundalk supporter, won the league title 4 times, and so when it's obviously been very up and down. since then, and so I try not to get too. I've realised how blessed I was in terms of the performance of the team in those early years, and so be optimistic and hope it'll come around. I'm not suggesting that we're going to be anywhere near that side for a long time, but I've always tried to look at things with a glass half full approach. Sometimes, people are laughing at me and thinking you're mad, but if there's signs of recovery there, I'd like to see it. It's I think what they need, going back to the home form, is so long as there's a performance there and we can get a win at home against Waterford. Stevie's record at home over the last 2 years has been excellent. Away form has been really patchy, but Oriole's been a tough place to go and win football matches for other teams, and there's no class. We need to make that the case again. We're not going to have anything like a half decent season if we don't start winning games at Oriole again and make it a place that we're difficult to beat. And so you've got to hope that was so bad on Monday that there's no chance of going back there again. If that sort of performance comes out or anything like it, if you go down 3-0 to Waterford, 4-0 to Waterford, then it's like, well, you start to wonder what do we do? There has to be a reaction. I felt there was a reaction tonight. I felt that we were much more cohesive. We were more solid. The creation of goals, the chances is the sticking point. But there was a reaction I felt from the players, and you needed that. If there hadn't been, it'd be really worrying. And so the same at home next week, 3 points, and then start from there. That's my glass half full. I still believe there's a glass, Planner.
a pint glass, yeah. That's it, Dan. Go on, Chris.
Yeah, no, like I agree with Dan on that. I think we've got to, like, as soon as you get the win, that'll get the confidence up. But it's just, the longer it goes without that win, the harder it starts to get for Stephen. And that's why, like Dan just said, I think this Waterford game coming up now at home next week is super important. We've got to get on the front foot. We've got to score first, or we got to just stay in the game. We can't give away something sloppy. Get something, a reason for the crowd to get behind the team. And that could just pull us over the line. Look, how many times have we said this, Gally? I'll take a scrappy 1-0 win off someone's backside and in. I wouldn't care less. I just get the win, get the goal, get a reason for people to get in behind it, and then start trying to kick the season off from there. Because I'm just looking at the comments there, and it's not as much as last week of the sticker twist.
I don't think it'll ever be as much as last week.
We give him? Can he guide us out of this? So I feel until we get the win, those questions remain. And once we get the win, we can start looking further up the table about where we can go. But it's just the number one goal of this team has to be get that first win on the board ASAP and start trying to kick on then on the season, because without that, the longer it goes, the more doubt that comes in people's minds. And I think that can be the downfall sometimes of the lone players, that if you're not engaged in the league and you're not at it, could it be easier for their kind of attitudes to slip? And I'm not saying anyone has or anything like that, but could it be? You don't want to give any sort of doubt to the players at all. You want them 100% clued in, fixed in to one goal, and you can see the whole team. Like we in particular, you could see that I think on Stevie's first season, everyone bought into what was going, loan signings, everybody, and that's where you need to get back. And how do you get that? Is results, is performances, and that's what we got to have.
Yeah, Chris, that's very that's, I like that. That was very, usually we're like, if you're driving home there and you have a dodgy night and you're just off on one, but that's very pragmatic. Yeah, you're nearly home now. You can smell the cup of tea in the house. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Before everybody cuts out, I realise we started late. Chris, just to confirm your man of the match, just when we have you, was it Durant, is it?
Yeah, I'm going to go Sam Durant, yeah.
Right, so Dan, as it is your debut, we'll go straight to you, and as you were commentating on the match as well in the Dundalk FM, for your man of the match for the pizza.
I thought Durant did well when he came on, but I'm going to give mine to Scott High. I think all the good stuff that we've done maybe this is kind of reflecting on the previous performances, but I felt tonight as well. I thought he was positive. He moves the ball quickly, got us forward, got us on the front foot. I know the final ball then sometimes let us down, but it was often, in one case it was him on the edge of the box with a shot that just went wide. So yeah, I don't think anyone had a sort of 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 performance tonight. I don't think anyone had a stinker either. Ross Monroe. Other than the flap that led in, I thought he was good. Came off his line very well. Sort of played that sweeper keeper role quite well. And so and Robbie Benson as well, Chris mentioned. But I'll go Scott High. I think he'd be my man of the match.
Yeah, I kind of pumped it early. I know I know Richard Garland put in a tweet earlier on about Monroe possibly being keeper or player of the game. There is an argument for Durant as well, Chris, because at the end of the day, if you come on and you can improve the game over a couple of minutes, even for whatever length of time you're on, absolutely. But I obviously the bells, and obviously I just realised we're 3 bells coaches on this podcast, we're taking over everything these days, lads. But yeah, I would agree with Dan on the Scott High. I think I was harsh on him a couple of weeks ago. I think it was actually Tom O'Connor was on the show, and I was only when Tom was talking, it was kind of someone that kind of flew under the radar a little bit in the game. It was against Rovers at the time, and I don't know who we gave man of the match to, but I think we know what we're going to get from him. I'd like to see him a little bit higher up the field, but yeah, I think he's definitely going to be a player we're going to be looking for the next couple of weeks. So just looking at the comments there, I think this is only our second pizza of the year. We are going to go with Shane McGuirk for the pizza. There's about 4 or 5 entries. It's just a random one. So Shane, get yourself a pizza. Contact Vinny and Tony's Pizzeria. We let them know that you've won the pizza tonight. And I think there's plenty of, over the last between last Monday and tonight, there's plenty of hungry people out there from all to give it out. Chris, are you still with us yet? He might be. Dan, we'll go to you anyway. Just on next week, just for next week's fixtures now, Waterford, I know we've been over it already, but is it something now that, like you say, let's get Oriel Park, let's get, Fortress Oriel, I suppose. That's what Stevie needs to work on now, getting these games at home. They're vital now, especially where we are. They're vital anyway, but now with the start we've had, we've got to get these ticked off, haven't we?
We need to get it rocking. I mean, when the shed is loud, the atmosphere is as good as any stadium in the country. I know the stadium itself might not be, but the atmosphere there is great when it's great. The players will feel that. The new players don't know what that's like yet. The 2 home games have been, well, other than the pre-season games, the two league games have been poor, and it's always a 2-way street. If the players don't give the fans something to cheer about, then you're not going to get that atmosphere generated as quickly. Chris's point about scoring the first goal has such a big factor. If you can give the fans something to cheer, then every tackle, every press, every throw-in one. There was a thing tonight. Jamie Lennon won was it a throw-in or a free kick right underneath the TV gantry, and was sort of raising his arms in front of the crowd, and that sort of thing. It's as soon as the players hear that, and hopefully it's led by them, we get in front, they'll sense that coming back to them from the crowd. If we can do that, that's a starting point. It's something to build on. I agree with Chris. You'd take a 1-0 with an own goal off.
Absolutely.
Orig Armand's backside or something like that. And take 1-0, 3 points, get a first one under the belt. If we can do it, score 1 or 2 goals from open play, lovely. But let's not be greedy just yet. Just get in, get on the front foot, put that Sligo game behind us, make sure Oriel is a place that we, Dundalk supporters want to get out to, want to go watch football on a Friday night, and opposition teams don't really fancy coming to, because we're not going to have a successful season without that.
Yeah,
I don't think
exactly. It's the simple things at the end of the day. Look, we can talk about the way we play, but again, it's got to be results. We got to get the points to the boards. No matter how good you are, we said here a million times. No matter how much possession you have of a ball, if you can't put the ball in the back of the net, it's points at the end of the day. You don't win leagues on the cups on possession. And like everybody's saying in Waterford, absolutely, it's vital. I mean, we've got a low derby coming up, but let's ignore that. You got to go game by game now. That's the way we are for the next couple of weeks. I think that's probably the after tonight's result, especially. I think that's the way to think of it, isn't it?
Yeah, but if it is a win next week, and let's assume that's the starting point, then Shells, you potentially go to the team who are top of the league. That's a tough fixture, but if you're bouncing into it on the back of 3 points, who knows if there might be some momentum generated by the time the Loud Derby comes. If that's a second home game and you're going into it on the back of a win, and let's say, I don't know, we go to Shells and get a point, for example, building. By the time the Loud Derby happens, then that atmosphere is going to be good.
Yeah.
But if we have a repeat performance next Friday night at home, and it turns into a third home defeat, and then you go into the league leaders, and then you're going into the Loud Derby on the back of, still being in the bottom of the table, things can look very different just with the number of points on the board. So, yeah, it's important we get that first win on the board ASAP, and hopefully next Friday.
Yeah, Chris, all eyes on Waterford.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is, after tonight's performance, you nearly would have took one of these Friday and Monday games now, because if you could get something out of a Waterford game, it would give you a massive boost. But look, we've got a week to get it right. I think it just, no matter what, I think at the moment we'd sacrifice, like I say, not a great performance for a win, just anything at all, scrappy anything, just with the 3 points is what's important. And then you got to start building on that, looking at a Loud Derby and everything else after. But yeah, Waterford just got to get something from that game. Got to get something. That is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And it's and like for everything else, we've also got to be in the game. You got to be in the game just to allow the fans to roll in behind. That's also key, because what you don't want is just a disconnect to grow between the fans and the team. And how we do that is a performance on the pitch will bring the fans with them. And then once the fans are with them, that'll also help the team on the pitch. But that doesn't come unless we put in a performance that is worthy of that level of support. And that's what you want from that Waterford game. 3 points and a half decent performance, I think.
Optimistic 24, Chris. That's what we're looking for.
It might be a week away, but I say it might be a week away, but it feels that the next goal is massive.
It is.
Always with us. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I think all eyes on Waterford, and I think that's we got to take it game by game. Before we go, Chris, obviously, looking, Dan, we obviously had the sad news on Wednesday of the passing of Sonia Hoy. Sonia, we had her on the show. I think we had them on twice, Chris, herself and Daniel. Was it? Or we had the group
twice
on to save for Sonia, and we promoted them. I don't think anything was ever promoted as quick and as fast and delivered on promise as anything as quick as for fundraisers I've ever seen. But unfortunately, Sonia lost her battle on Tuesday night, and the news confirmed on Wednesday. Her funeral is tomorrow. So if I'm sure it's going to be very busy anyway, so expect a long delay if you're around the Echo Road tomorrow. It's from Sonia's house in Ardesmond. But if you're around tomorrow and you're available, come out, wear your club colours. She was the ultimate sportswoman. I had the pleasure of coaching her at Castletown Bells for a couple of months. My dad would have had her at Castletown Celtic as well. Played for Dundalk, Peamount. There's not many players from this area, male or female, go to Peamount and almost get capped for Ireland. I spoke to a gentleman last night, Tom O'Connor. He said if he had got her into Gaelic, in her early 20s, she probably would have been an all-star in Gaelic. She was sensational, coming to it late, but an absolute sensational athlete, role model, ambassador. I'm proud to have coached up. The Bells will be present tomorrow. I don't know if you have anything else to say yourself, lads, but I know Dan, you paid tribute at half-time on the game tonight, and it's, look, as sick as she was, she fought like, it's, I spoke to Daniel last night at the door at Patsy and Bennett's house, and it's a tragic, unbelievable story, and it's a sad day for football, and look, we just wanted to pay tribute to her. I don't know, lads, you can, if you had anything to say yourselves, but for myself, on behalf of Castletown Bells, as the new chairperson, as I've been elected recently, it's a sad day for football, and we wish everybody all the best in the Hoy family, and look, it's, rest in peace, Sonia. It's an unbelievable tragedy, isn't it?
Yeah, I never personally had the pleasure of meeting Sonia, but obviously well aware of her, what she's done for the town and for football in the town. And so on the commentary tonight, just wanted to just summarise a few of the tributes that have poured in for this week. So we just told people, those listening who may or may not have known, all the clubs that she played for. Obviously, such a huge goal in the history of Dundalk women's football in the 2005 Cup final. And then we just read out a bit of the statement from Dundalk FC, from the Bells, and from Pat. And nothing says it better for me than someone who's as steeped in the history of the football club as Pat Oban still says, Sonia's achieved something I still dream of. Getting to score the winning goal in the cup final. And so, terribly sad news, but not everybody gets to leave a mark that will stand the test of time and be forever there, and Sonia has. And so, my just thoughts and condolences go out to her family and all the friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just want to echo the same as yourselves there, lads. Like, I would have known Sonia personally as well, been a neighbour of her for a long time in Brickfield Gardens too. So my whole family would have known her. Obviously the connection with the football as well. Playing with sister-in-law for myself and stuff like that in the Dundalk team. A Dundalk women's team going to an FAI Cup final in Lansdowne Road. Like, imagine that now with the publicity that's behind women's football. It'd be absolutely massive. It's but it still can't take it away. And you could be a long time waiting for another Dundalk women's team to get to and win a final like that again. So it's an amazing achievement by herself, and just taken away from all of that, just like a really nice person as well. Like you would never pass her. She'd be out for a walk or something like that or whatever. Like, she'd always stop and she'd always talk to football to me and stuff like that. So, in that sense, it's, that's a real sad person that, she was such a nice person as well. Despite everything that she was going through, she still would sit and chat away to you, even if it was only for a couple of minutes and stuff like that. So, yeah, absolutely, condolences to the family, and our hearts go out to them all. But, I think you'll probably see it tomorrow exactly how many people Sonia actually touched and feel part of. And I'm sure everyone will give her a real good sending off that this town always tends to do. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's I don't think we could end up the show without mentioning that. And our condolences to everybody. And look, it's a sad, we know ourselves, sport, and it's a different animal when sport comes together and people come together in sport. But look, we'll end it on that, lads. Appreciate Dan. Thank you for coming on. You're probably elected now to the gang, so we'll get you in most weeks now, Chris. We'll probably get him in every so often.
Good debut.
It's good to have the extra. Debut, cracking debut. Yeah.
92 days. I'll take it.
We'll have to get you a cap.
Good to be here, lads. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Dan. Chris, thanks very much for dialing in. I know you're busy filming matches up for League of Ireland, and best of luck. You're in Limerick tomorrow, I think. Is that what you said the other night? So you're going to be a busy weekend as well.
Back in Talca.
Talca, that's right. Talca, sorry. You're in Limerick. Sorry, that's my fault. So, lads, look, appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I think we have, we're upward of 250 people watching live, which is more than Monday night, which is a surprise considering what happened Monday night. But look, we go again against Waterford next week. We try and get that win, that elusive win, a couple of goals maybe from open play if we can. And until then, come on the town.